Every year, I try to come out with a rut forecast, and this year is no different. The 2017 Rut Forecast. When should you be in the woods? I'm going to tell you, it's kind of misleading almost every year, because guys will pick, there's folks that pick, it's going to be a late rut, a traditional rut, an early rut. Guys, gals, hunters, I'm here to tell you that each year the rut is the same exact timing in your neck of the woods. Every single year it's the same. But that being said, there's days that you want to go out in the woods and you should really focus on and not miss. And there's a lot of days you're in the rut that you could probably just hang your hat at home, spend time with the family, spend time with your friends, and let your tree stands really set and soak so that they're ready when you want to hit the woods. What I found over the year, these 3 bucks here, they happen to be 3 out of 4 of my top bow kills. And each one of these happened because of a certain set of factors that I look at and I focus on every single year, and I've been doing that for 3 decades. I'm not kidding, 3 decades. Those factors determine when I go in the woods to hunt. In fact, these 3 bucks span from a time range of 2005 to 2013. I have other bucks that I'll detail here in a little bit that span from 2003 to 2016. But bottom line, these factors work, and I rely on them wholly. They will tell you, they will not lie, they will not mislead you from year to year. If you study those factors, they will lead you to success. Now, I have a formula I've developed for that too. I actually released that formula in Outdoor Life a couple seasons ago, and we talked about the specifics of that. That Rut formula is in the link at the bottom of this YouTube video. It's on my site, and so I talk about this. It's open, you don't have to buy it, it's out there. But you know what? Formulas are kind of boring. You know, we can scratch out a bunch of numbers. I like math. I like that it can predict when you should be in the woods, but at the same time, it is boring. So you need to key on these factors. That's what's important. I don't go home and figure this formula out and look at a forecast, try to figure it out. This day's gonna be a 10, this day's gonna be a 9 or a 7. But if you do, each one of these bucks were shot between a 9 and 10 and out of 10 days, and the bucks that I'll talk about here in a little bit were shot between a 9 and a 10. Biggest factor, temperature change. You really want to look for those temperature change. If you look at the details for these bucks, each one of them was shot on just a sharp drop from the day before, 2 days before, 3 days before, often 15 to 20 degree temperature drop. Secondly, wind change. If you notice, every one of the bucks that I detail, the 7 bucks in this video, each one was shot with a drastic reduction in wind speeds. So they went from 35 to 10. Might have gone from 25 to 5. It doesn't mean that there's no wind. I actually like a little bit of steady wind, but it means there's a significant drop. And even if you see drops from 50 miles an hour down to 25, that's a great bet, because the deer are going to recognize that difference, and it's all based on stress. And that fourth point, outside of the wind change, the temperature change, you really have to focus on the extremity of weather. So those extreme weather conditions, whether it is wind or it is rain, it is snow, when those big extreme changes take place, the extremities of weather push stress in the deer herd. It puts them down in their beds. They don't want to go out into the open food sources. They miss feeding times, the temperature drop, everything. There's 3 ways, including stress, lack of food, and temperature drop, that hits those deer and makes them want to feed when the front passes. So you're looking for all those changes to take place. And then now the moon. You know, the moon influences feeding times. It doesn't necessarily influence when the rut will take place in your area. Might determine that it's better to feed or hunt in the morning and the evening. But bottom line, if it's a great temperature, don't relate a great temperature change, great wind speed change, great extremity of weather change. Don't miss that time in the woods based on the mood. Just go out. If it's a great weather day, go out. You can't determine if it's going to be a great day by the moon alone. It's just a small part of it. On the other hand, if it's a great moon phase and you have poor weather day, let's say it's 75 degrees in Wisconsin and it's November 3rd and there's a 30-mile-an-hour wind, I personally am not going to go burn out my best stand. I might go hunt, maybe, because it's November 3rd, but if I have a great temperature change on the 5th or the 6th, I'm going to go out in the woods. So again, you can boil this down to a scale of 1 to 10 and do the formula, and I encourage you to go try that, because you know, I have a huge history going back many years of shooting bucks on an 8, 9, 10 out of 10 day. So you can go hit that formula. Now, some of those bucks, November 3rd, 2004, wide monster buck. He's about, I think the inside spread was 23.5 inches on him. Great buck. And if you look at the details of that buck, sharp temperature drop, sharp wind speed drop, and a rising barometric pressure. November 6, 2003, great 13-pointer. He was a real big buck, nice 150-inch buck, really good mass. We'd watched him for 2 years. All these bucks are target bucks that I really individually wanted to shoot that buck, and we're going after him. Again, all those temperature drops, same wind speed drop, barometric pressure rise. All these bucks is kind of a broken record. November 8th, 2005, 173-inch 10-point. That's that buck right up here. Outstanding buck. In fact, I was out for a 9-day rut hunt. I've never hunted 5 days in a row because I only focus on the wind and the weather and the temperature change. It was getting a little boring and hot, so I actually drove all the way back to Michigan, 7 hours. I live in Wisconsin now the last 5 years, but at that time, drove all the way back to Michigan, 7 hours, waited 3 or 4 days, spent time with my family, got some work done, and then met up with my hunting buddy from Georgia back here, Carl, later in the week on a Wednesday, Thursday, I think it was. I focused on that temperature drop, waited till that time, came back, was here one morning and shot that target buck. So really, focused on that weather and was able to do that. Flipping ahead to October 26, 2007, 15-point. I actually highlighted that on a target buck video just a couple days ago. Same thing. That temperature actually dropped for 3 or 4 days, 25 degrees total, and just a huge opportunity. Great high pressure, great wind drops. I think the winds were 5 to 10 miles an hour during that time. And again, going into the stand one time for that buck, target buck, and shoot that buck. October 22nd, 2011, 174-inch 11-point. That is this buck right here. Really great main beams. We watched this buck the year before. He's kind of a ghost. He disappeared for the rut. He actually left the property. He was one of the few bucks around that we actually have during the summer that we get photos of and trail camera photos of. We're saying, boy, you really want that buck. Well, there are 2 bucks fighting out in the field on October 22nd, and it was in the evening. A buddy of mine was telling me this 2 bucks, massive bucks are fighting, and I'm wishing they were over by me because it was 300 yards away. And pretty soon here comes this buck sneaking the opposite direction. I feel that these bucks were in there, mature bucks. He's a mature buck, but he's a shy one. I felt that when it got into the rut and we had that collection of mature bucks on our property from mid-October on, he was just kind of buying his time during the summer, early part of the season, and then he was heading out of there. And I actually shot him that night coming to a water hole, going the opposite direction of our property, going off the property. And it might have been those fighting bucks out there that kind of pushed him off and dominated him. And another cold front night, another big drop, a night that we just came out to hunt 3 days during that time, even though it was early in the rut. We really focused on that time and came out and was successful. November 5th, 2013, 160-inch 13-point. This one right here, drop time. Buck we watched for 2 summers. In fact, that summer before, my son Jake, Sam was out here occasionally, my friend Dave, his son Gavin, watching this buck out in the fields about a mile away, beef jerky, pop, great time. And I actually did not hunt this buck because he didn't live on the property. He was a non-core buck. Waited till the peak of the rut because that's the time I had to move. I had a stand location for him. Went in on November 6th, on November 5th on a big cold front drop, and sure enough was in the stand for an hour and a half and he came right to me. Sounds like a needle in the haystack, but if you're hunting the right funnel that you know he's going to come through, he's already told you the year before that, trail cam photos that he's going to come through there eventually. And he's already told you he's only going to come through the peak rut because he's a non-core buck, meaning he's living a mile away or more from your property. And he's already told you, he's not going to come over when it's 80 degrees and a 30-mile-an-hour wind. He's going to come over when there's a cold front. So it sounds like a needle in the haystack hunt, but really a lot of these hunts, you're going into that stand one time to try to harvest one of these specific bucks. You're letting the trail cam photos and sign tell you that he's going to be there, and he's going to be there at a certain time because he's a non-core buck or core buck. Lo and behold, you go in and you have an opportunity at him. And finally, Diego last year. I don't know if any of you watched the story of Diego unfold throughout the season, but we sat on this very property right here. In fact, he cruised right through this funnel that we're standing in. We passed him up, I think that was the 30th of October in the evening. And then the next morning, the 31st of October, I was up top, about 300 feet in elevation difference and about 300 yards from here, and was able to harvest him on that cold front morning. Huge drop. I sat with Dylan the night before right here in a tree stand 30 yards from where I'm standing and just said, man, it's a great night tonight. Diego walked by within bow range, ended up not an ideal shot, so didn't take it. And then the next morning went out and had an opportunity on him up the ridge here. So, but again, really focusing on those. Once you've determined, I'm going after this target buck, he should be in this area for a particular reason, I'm using these weather influencers, and especially that drop in temperature and that rise in barometric pressure, that change in wind speed. I'm using those factors to tell me I need to go out and sit in that stand. And that's why a lot of my bucks are shot the first time using the stand, because I'm not burning out those stands on warm weather times. I have my rut stands, my morning stands that I'm saving until the rut, usually the pre-rut, October 20th and later, that big cold front coming through. And once I figure all that out, that weather pattern, and I'm looking forward, and I'm saying 2 to 3 days in advance, because that's very accurate at that point. We can advance 50-60%, you know, a cold front's coming through 50-60% of the time. It's pretty accurate. Then I'm going in, you know, I'm saying I'm going out in the woods to hunt. One of the things you need to determine, is this a non-core buck that's living a mile away from your property? Because if it is, he's not going to be there in the pre-rut. If it's a core buck and he's around all the time he might not be there the most is during the peak rut, because he's on someone else's land. So that core buck, I'm hunting him on a cold front in late September here in Wisconsin, early October in Michigan when their season opens October 1st. And then I'm hunting him any cold front all the way through the entire season, because he has a chance of being around here. As long as my food and my cover is stable for him and pressure free the entire season, he has a chance of sticking around here. A non-core buck, for example, these two, especially this one right here and this one right here, then I only have a chance at those during early November. So you're looking at a November 5th through November 10th around here during a cold front. I'm not even going into a stand before those times. So I'm determining what bucks I'm after, when I should go hunt them time of year wise, and then determining which day is going to be the best day. So if you start doing the math, you're going to find that there's very few high quality days, 8, 9, 10 days that you should be in the woods. There's a few days in the middle, 4, 5, 6, 7 quality, maybe a 6 quality right around there. And there's a lot of 1 through 3. So I completely ignore the 1 through 3. I might take a 4, 5, 6 day and get into the woods. You know, that's an okay day. There's not a lot of them. And I'll purely focus and make sure that I'm out in the woods and that I don't miss those high quality 8, 9, and 10 out of 10 days. Pretty easy to go back. We use Weather Underground. There's other weather services out there that you can use, and you can look back into the 60s, the 50s, you know, weather changes. You can look up when granddad shot a buck 50 years ago and figure out what weather it was, you know, what the day was, what the quality of day was. What I encourage you to do, instead of going backwards and look at some of your best bow kills over the decades or last year, the year before, I encourage you to use this formula. Look at those factors this season in 2017 and look and forecast yourself in the next 7-10 days. I shouldn't miss these days. I can't miss these days. You have to be in the woods. I encourage you to try that, look forward, forecast your success, and not only forecast your success, look back, see what happened 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, what's gonna happen a week, 10 days later. I encourage you to use this formula every single season, because the one factor out there is the one formula. It is the one way that you can forecast your deer every year. Doesn't matter if it's 2015 or 2025. You're going to be able to forecast which days to hunt during the rut every single season when you use this formula. And I encourage you to give it a try. It hasn't let me down for 3 decades, and I plan on using it wholeheartedly for every time I step into the woods this fall.